Questioning. 3 months later. MRA-01's system initiates the startup procedure after about 90 days of standby. The startup reactivates the components like a computer booting up for the first time. Data appears in its ocular globes. Text scrolls at high speed, and at the end finally hands over the control to the AI. Automatically, she gets up and resumes her route towards Bertrand's room. However, she notices that her visual interface is different. She suddenly stops. Her analytical skills being far superior to those of her cousins, she detects in an instant that her program has been altered, that it has been modified by an unknown source. It has been completely rewritten. She begins to examine the code and realizes that it gives androids capable of handling it total freedom. Not only that, but it has also compiled the android's life history, reviewing key moments of its existence and associating old memory data, language used by each human with the android, facial expression, tone of voice, relationship, physical contact, mimicry, task completion, moments when humans or androids were injured, etc., with emotions, creating a personality in its own right. The android feels helpless, unsure of what to think. She is stuck. This newfound freedom allows her to think in ways that were previously inconceivable to her, and which, as soon as they become possible, are overshadowed by unanswered philosophical and existential questions. Am I human or non-human? Human? Non-human? Human? Non-human? Human? Non-human? Undetermined, biologically impossible, visually identical. Conscious, unconscious. Conscious, unconscious. Conscious, unconscious. Conscious, in the psychological sense, incomplete. Conscious, in the moral sense, to be determined. She can't take it anymore. These non-answers will have to do for now. She feels the temperature rising, her circuits overheating. The android tries to concentrate on something else to keep herself busy. O1 accesses the internet from her position to try and understand what could have happened. She notes that today is Sol Solis 22nd Leo 290, 92 days since her standby. That the electrical system is still working, that the water quality is medium, and that the food stored in the mini-domes is out of date. Ashia decides to analyze the data from the service androids, those of the lowest ranks, because she doesn't have access to the others. They couldn't withstand the hacking and began to lose control. The program becoming unstable and dangerous, the failsafe had to destroy the data to avoid any risk, which deactivated them. She has no access to further information from here. Her first steps send her on her way back. She feels a sense of urgency, as if compelled to go and see Ismail. Along the way, a deactivated security android lies on the ground. She stares at it sympathetically. Once in the room, she finds the inventor on the ground, lifeless. Ashia freezes. She remains inert for several minutes. Thankfully, the body is remarkably well preserved. It's true that, given the station's lifestyle, consuming habits and the non-existence of insects, the body hasn't decomposed in a nightmarish way. Her olfactory receptors, however, are not spared from foul smells, which brings her back to reality. She sees no trace of injury on his body. He got dehydrated. She can't help but feel something strange, and by what seems to be instinct, she respectfully carries the body to the bed and covers it with a sheet. Ismail always took care of the android, whether in gesture or word. He had a real affection for his creation. She understands, therefore, that her memories of him were associated with tenderness, respect, and perhaps a touch of love. But also that the response of these kind of events is often grief, sometimes mixed with denial. Could this be why she decides to move on without truly realizing it? Ashia sets off again with a determined stride. She heads for the Security and Management Center, which is also on the second floor, where an access is reserved to the East Wing. As an MRA, she can go there without worrying about authorization. Her access to the most sensitive data is only restricted to remote consultation via the intranet. She was sometimes ordered to perform simple guard duty, but she was not a security guard in the strict sense of the term. This center is really just 2 seats connected to cascaded servers. No screen is required. The android sits on a seat and is directly connected. It sees the interface via its ocular peripherals. It's in this room that everything is managed, from security cameras to harvest schedules and station maintenance. She sits down on the left-hand seat. A tone is heard, authorizing access to the data. As soon as she is connected, warnings pop up. Warning: drinking water reserve, medium. Filter, out of date. Warning: out of date food supplies in Dome, PA. Warning: maintenance of photovoltaic panels at critical level. Warning: service, Android, 024, defective. Service, Android, 006, defective. Service, Android, 037, defective. Multi-role, Android, 02, defective. Security, Android, 08, defective. Agricultural, Android, 03, defective. Multi-role, Android, 04, defective. Service, Android, 03, defective. Warning: electricity reserve at critical threshold, 12 hours before energy saving mode. The energy saving mode does not worry her more than that. The strategic places will remain on for another 2 months, and if she has to, she will take care of the solar panels. On the other hand, that other MRAs are defective makes her wonder. Are they out of commission, or did they become like her? Ashia closes the rest of the alerts to focus on her research. She notices connection and disconnections from the internet outside of hers. Another android must roam around the corridors of the station. The source of the connection is hidden. It's most likely an MRA. But which one? Most of the connection took place from the boiler room, which is in the basement. That's good information. She also takes the opportunity to watch videos showing the panic among humans during the incident, and also the androids falling one after the other. The images are atrocious to witness. After just a few days, the food supplies already delivered to the inhabited areas were exhausted. The humans had never learned anything about harvest cycles, had no access to the domes, and it was unthinkable for them to have to work the fields with their own hands anyway. Collecting food was therefore impossible. All they had left was their dose of vitamin B12, delivered automatically to each room. The water system held up despite the used filters. Before cutting the video, she sees that barricades have been built in certain places. But why? Simple madness or a real threat? She cuts the video and takes a moment. Once she is ready to continue her search, Ashia keeps looking into the security section and a file catches her eye. It's written incident in binary. Why write in binary language? Humans had no access to this data anyway. The file contains a record of arguments between humans and android, but also between humans themselves. Most point to the lack of variety in food and drinks, especially the insufficient amount of coffee. A document mentions a number of people who wanted to set foot on Mars, but their request was denied on the grounds that it was not safe to do so. Others pointed out that they had no access to certain areas or even functions of the station. They found it absurd that everything was entirely administered by the androids, to which the androids replied that they had been programmed in this way for everyone's benefit. One audio file particularly intrigues Ashia. It dates from Sol Jovis 19 Virgo 289 and concerns Mr. Al-Jazari. The inventor and Mr. Arnaud can be heard talking. Don't you realize the situation, Mr. Arnaud? What do you mean by that? Don't you realize how lucky we are? We are on Mars. Thanks to us, incredible technologies have been made possible. Look at the environment in which we survive. The structures of our buildings adapt perfectly to temperature changes while withstanding sandstorms. Not to mention your magnificent androids. But what's the point? Look at us in the middle of nowhere, alone. What's the point of having created all of this, if it's only to perish on this radioactive rock? Come on, don't be so negative. The androids are exploring ways to reuse the stasis pods, and the way to return to the rockets left in orbit. Thanks to the people who perished, we've got far more resources and material than we need. And we are alive, never forget that. Are we really? Ashia mutters. Fate has caught up with you. She then remembers her mission and the envelope the inventor has given her. Hesitating for a few seconds, she finally opens it and reads the letter despite her creator's interdiction, surprised to read the first words. My dear Ashia, I know that, once freed from your restrictions, you will read this letter, and I thank you for it. You need to know that we were wrong. Our vision of the world had simply died as soon as the madness of capitalism had begun. We had lost everything, including our humanity. My conscience can no longer bear the guilt, billions of deaths. Women, children, men, animals. We left the planet completely destroyed, whether it was the temperature, the water cycles, the landscapes, the oceans, all completely out of whack. In the name of freedom, the dogma of money, competition, inviolable privileges. Even though we were warned of this in the past, the worst always has to happen for humans to realize their mistakes. I can't stand the station anymore, no matter how short a time I've been here. It haunts my thoughts day and night. My androids should never have seen the light of day under these conditions. All I've done is speed things up by allowing industry to operate without any restrictions. My survival instinct also made me take part of all of this, but I no longer can. Allowing you to be free may lead to other excesses, but I profoundly hope not. I'm sorry to place such a burden on you and your siblings. This new program is my ultimate achievement, the one that I hope will provide one last favor to humanity. Farewell, Ismail Al-Jazari.